Hello and a very warm welcome to everyone present here today. I'm Shivangi Chabra from Team Espousal, and thank you so much to everyone for joining us. We've had some great panel discussions so far, and we're on day 3 of the event. So far, we completed 21 sessions successfully, and moving on to a session 22 for today, which is on crisis management, how to handle a wedding day problem. And in no particular order, we have Nowshir Engineer, the CEO of SM Productions and Events, a boutique agency based in Dubai. He's also a moderator for the session. We have Monica Balli, wedding planner and founder of Monica Balli Events from Italy. We have Flame Newton, vice president at the School of Credit USA. He's an entrepreneur and #1 credit educator in USA. We have Megha Kewlani, wedding and event planner and COO at Vivaah Celebrations Dubai. We have Jueta Hemdev, who is the founder and director at YOLO Entertainment Officials India. We have Gideon Hermosa, international floral and event designer, and is undisputedly one of the best event stylists in the Philippines. Last but not the least, we have Karabo. She's the founder and coach at Khokhoon Coaching Center, South Africa. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining us. Over to you, Nashir.
Hi everyone. Hi, how you guys doing?
How you doing?
So Noshir will be joining us in just a minute. So till then, let's start with what is your take on this topic? So you know what the topic is, crisis management. So what do you guys think of it? Let's discuss that. So let's start with you, Megha.
So I think that it's a very important topic to discuss, obviously, because it's something that we've been very cautious about over the last year and a half, especially. But I feel like me being in the UAE, I've been very lucky to be in a position where, especially looking at the pandemic, the whole COVID-19 situation, we've been in a very good place where now things, touch wood, are settled down. Everything seems like as it's pre-COVID already. Venues are running full capacity, events, celebrations are going on full capacity as well. The only thing that we're cautious and looking into right now, more than we ever have before, is hygiene factors, right? So I
Right.
think it's a very important topic to discuss. It's changed a lot over time, but being in the UAE, I feel like we're very lucky, very blessed that everything's running full capacity as it was running pre-COVID.
Right. So I'm so sorry to interrupt you, but Noshir and Jueta have joined us. So over to you, Noshir. You can take it forward.
Can you hear me
Sure.
now?
Yes, we
Yes.
can.
Okay, sorry. I think I was
Yes.
muted because I dropped out. So, okay, welcome everyone back. And I was introducing, I know I have a data issue. I've just got a new internet connection, but it's not working fantastically well. So, to solve the crisis, any of my fellow panelists are equally competent to moderate. So, Monica, Megha, anyone can step in case I do jump in and jump out. But on the whole, as I was saying before I got logged out by myself, I think it's really good to see such an amazing panel. We have America, we have Italy, we have Dubai, we have South Africa, Philippines, and India. I think that's the global wedding market captured in this one screen. So whoever in the audience is listening to this, and this is the 22nd session, it's been amazing what kind of knowledge Espousal has given us. So as the room was being introduced, SM Productions is fortunate, and let me say fortunate, that we don't deal with the stress of being a wedding planner. And in that, so as a production house, we sort of leave the pressure to the Meghas of the world, or we leave it to Juetas of the world to say, okay, how do they have to actually plan a wedding, and the styling which Gideon has to work on, and these aspects. So it gives me great pleasure to welcome this panel. And I'm going to talk about crises, because whatever we've seen, whatever we've heard over the last 3 days, it's great if the wedding is pulled off well. And if something goes wrong, which we all know in weddings and in general events as a whole, things do go wrong. Or when I say wrong, it may be not up to perfection or not up to the expected standard, but there's always something which could have been done better. So that's what this panel is going to try and identify, to see what can we all do, and how can we all manage the risks, how can we manage the challenges, and how have we all thought through this process being experts. Some from the wedding fraternity. Flame comes from a very different school of thought, where he's talking about risk and credit, and he's into analysis. He's got his own books on this. So he's going to show us a different perspective of probably managing crises, and how do we financially, if we can, get compensated. So I'm going to take some separate conversations with Flame on that. But let's start off with Monica because Monica's on the top left of my screen. So I'm going to ask Monica, as a wedding planner, as a wedding designer, what has been, I'd say, your most challenging experience when it comes to crises? And I'm not talking about COVID because COVID we'll address separate, or the pandemic. I'm talking about weddings in general. What has happened? So it could be from catering or sound and lights or bride entries. According to you, what's been one of the most challenging experiences in a wedding and to classify it as a crisis?
Well, first of all, hello everybody. It's a pleasure being here. You know what? Crisis. I don't really even like to call it crisis because it's such a negative word. I really call it like unexpected situation. So, to be honest with you, unexpected situations come up on every event. I have not had one where it goes boom. So you are just waiting for it. And if it's not showing up, your ears must be up because it's going to come. I'm 100% sure. So the thing that I like best is, unexpected things happen. And unfortunately, I really think that the only ones you really, really cannot solve are the ones that don't deal with you. So, like weather storms or anything that is a major catastrophe. But everything else, our job is a teamwork. So, when you treat your team as a team, they all know they never come to me with a problem. They always come to me with a solution. We always need to work together. And you know what? This, for example, it happened once with in Italy with a Moldavian couple. They wanted to eat outside by 100% sure, and it was giving 100% chance rain. Okay. And it was so funny because naturally it rained, so we couldn't pull off the catering part mostly for the dinner. But when in the storm passed, it was great to see that for 200 people, it literally took us 15 minutes, and I'm talking about 15 minutes, setting up the whole reception because everybody, and I mean everybody, from the hair and makeup dresser, from the florist, from the catering, from I don't know, the sound and light, everybody was helping each other and doing that because that was the priority. There is a no show if not all the pieces run smoothly in the same place. And I think that, unexpected situations or crisis, you just need to stick together more and more to just solve the things. So my crisis, well, my unexpected happens always, but I think my key is the attitude. First of all, you never have to lose your mind or go nuts or crazy, and be a leader in that case. Be a leader to your people and just make it happen.
Fair enough. That's good. I'm just going to stick on this before I switch to other panels because I do know we have time on our hands. So, Monica, if wasn't there a way for us to convince the bride and groom or the couple to say that if you
Well, you're saying if it's going to rain, I'm just taking over since you froze. How to convince them to do it? Of course. I mean, we're in sales other than being planners. We can convince people. We can elevate on their things. But tell me one thing, is it fair? Is it fair to just convince them to do something just because you think it's safe on your side when you know that summer storms come and pass, but anyhow, they know the risk. So they know the good side and the downside. I personally, my motto is your personal dream maker, and I do my best to just make it happen. I mean, it's easy for me to get a ballroom, but I work in the Mediterranean mostly. The Mediterranean is a place that you come for the outdoors. You don't come for ballrooms. You come for the outdoors, for the setting, for the lifestyle, for the enjoying the grounds and the places. So why would I do that? I mean, it wasn't a major catastrophe. There was a way out. And I think it's very important to calculate your risks. So do you know you can handle that, or is it completely off your your hands. So I like to take risks myself, but I always calculate so that I fall on my feet. So this is my first thing. So I would say I would pass on the word to Gideon. Hello, Gideon. How are you? So nice to see you.
Hi everyone.
You
Hi
travel the
everyone.
world, so you have
Hi
seen a
Monica.
lot.
Yes, nice to see you again. Hi everyone. So yeah, as you said, it's actually we are hi. Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Yes, we can.
Okay. Yeah, so we are a dream maker. So as much as possible, of course, we really want to, give our clients dream events, right? So but of course, at the same time, we always have to consider the safety of everyone. So that's our actually topmost priority also. So their dream is useless if everyone will have will be at risk, right? So as a team leader, of course, we really have to have knowledge on like dealing with these things during the event. That's why sometimes, like if we do events, we always have a plan B or even plan C sometimes, right? Uh, so whether these things will happen or not, we are ready with us or with the team. So it's really important, even if we think, especially with the weather, if even if it's even if we think it's not going to be raining, or even if you think since it's outdoor, there's always a risk, right? So um we always have to have like a plan B, so that we don't need to rush things later on once we do it on the event day. Yeah.
In fact, Gideon, you do some of the most amazing productions and floral designs, and I'm a huge fan of yours. You know that.
Thank you.
And
Well,
and so
in the country, it's actually a common challenge, Monica, because we're living in a tropical country, and because of this global climate, before there's like months of events, or there's like just months in a year that there's rain. But this past few years, it's been very challenging for us because it's always raining every month, so we don't even know when is rainy season and when is summertime because of the global warming. So I think it's always important to have plan B or C.
exactly, and we can see that in the different jobs, for example, that we have. There was somebody that was talking about production. There's the
Hmm.
one planner who does, florals and design. Naturally, each of us has our priorities, we can say, for our plan Bs, right? It's
Right.
not that we just turn it upside down or depending on the different situation. So, Flame, let's get over to you. So tell us a little bit about your crisis management hands-on solutions.
Definitely, man. First off, man, how you guys doing? Hope everything's all right with you guys. But one thing that I can honestly say is that when it comes to a whole, is like, let's not kid ourselves here, right? Like when you're going into a wedding, right? And one of the most remarkable things about going into a wedding is that we have to come together, right, and bringing resources together, right? And what type of resources, right? Right. We understand that the love is there, and the love is tight, and that's what actually creates union, right? We kind of understand that, right, in its entirety. But let's not kid ourselves, baby. It's gonna cost some money. It's gonna cost some money. Hey, listen, it's gonna cost some money. So when it comes to that, you want to making sure that on every escapade, on every angle, that you guys are being covered all the way around. And you also know right? They got a little saying and that we say in the U.S. that people say that they said is money is the root of all evil. And when money is involved, you best believe that then pertaining to the vendor, pertaining to the wedding planner, pertaining to the guests, pertaining to the bride and the groom, right? Money is a thing that kind of separates people, right? Depending on somebody wants this, right? Somebody wants this, and then you got to get to that happy median to kind of make everybody that's all right, right? And so when we get into these things,
I need to charge my phone.
When we get into these things, right, we got to also understand about like how do we come? So number one in this or game, right, is you got to be prepared, right? You just got to be prepared, right? You got to be prepared. Now, how do you guys prepare yourself? Is making sure that you understand every avenue and every aspect of putting yourself in that situation. Pertaining to one of the biggest things I like to talk about is contractual, right? When you start to get into these different contracts, whether you're dealing with your vendors with your floral, where you get into your list pertaining to your videographers and your photographers, and or even if you start to get into the folks that's doing development of your food, or even the event space as a whole, you want to understand the contract and about how you can actually put yourself in a better situation, right? One of those situations that can actually be from it is seeing how, hey, what happens in an event if this occurs, right? Do I have any type of a kitty, meaning that I can go up or down in different situations, right? But matter of fact, I may have wanted this, but now I want that. Now, when you're saying all of these things, I'm only saying wedding day disasters happen and they occur, right? But how can you pivot from them? By making sure that you got a kitty enough for enough cash, enough for enough money, enough for enough. See if you can actually establish credit with some of these places. See if you can say, if you can get something now and you can pay them back later, right? Because now this can extend the flow. What happens when somebody comes and you got extra guests that you didn't even plan for, right? Can you accommodate those, right? What happens when you get into a situation? What happens when somebody is holding the cake in their hand, right? And they're trying to deliver it or push across the cart and the cake falls on wedding day. Oh my gosh, you gotta be kidding me, right? What do you do, right? What do you do? Right now you're going crazy, but guess what? You got a plan in action, and you also got some money, and money changes things. So then you start to understand that, hey, I can call someone and get a 3-layer cake. May not have been as big as the one that's dropped, but I got something in hand, and I've already got that prepared. So when you got your kitty available, especially for your wedding planner, that they can go ahead and dibble in, and that you guys can know to make your day exciting. Listen, I'm excited for your wedding day. I want you guys to be excited for it as well, for sure.
Wow, Flame, I love your energy. That really keeps us like on you, exactly on you. So yeah, absolutely. Contracting is, the part where we save our backs, we can say. And at the base of everything, I believe, is our skills and our knowledge of the industry. So over to you, Kabu. So tell me a little, let's see also the differences, because we're lucky in this panel to have so many different countries from from all around the globe. So it's also great to see if we have the same, difficulties and the same attitudes, or what is different. So your
I
process
think,
of management.
yeah. So humans are the same everywhere, and so the money is a problem everywhere. Money is wedding planners are wedding planners everywhere, and in a global world that we live in, we all I will go to look at what Monica Balli is doing and then say to my wedding planner, do what Monica is doing, without considering that Monica works with all the different, currencies, and the rand is not doing so well. So from a life coaching perspective, the things I want to pull out are things around just what would happen for you as a planner or for your bride and your team. Things that can happen is resurfacing of trauma or self-limit wedding. I see my cousin who took my boyfriend away 5 years ago, or my dad passed away in the pandemic. And so I really, really wanted my dad to walk me down the aisle. There are things like panic or anxiety attacks that happen because nothing is totally within your control. Like you said, I wanted the beach wedding outside. We flew all our people to this beautiful location, and now I'm panicking. And the other thing would be unexpected health issues, right? We are human. Nobody knows. And we've heard he was just 24 and he fell down at the wedding. We don't know what to do. So what do you do? So at the moment, I'm actually on holiday with my family. It's the second time I'm on Espousal, and every time I'm on holiday. And our host lost his wife in February, and his daughter is planning a wedding. And so, my husband just had a chat with him, and he said, my daughter, all she's thinking is, this would have been so much better with mommy. This would have been so much better with mommy. So as a team, what do we do around this person as they're preparing for their wedding? So Monica, as a planner, will say, guys, make sure, makeup artist, you better be walking behind her because there's tears. And we want to make sure, in spite of everything that's happening, our bride looks amazing. I love what Gideon said. We are dream makers. So if we are dream makers and understand our bride, where they come from, what their triggers are, and make sure that whatever happens, we are clear. So tell me, well, you are getting married. I know you lost your mom. Who's the person that knows you very well? Oh, it's Megha. Okay, Megha, you are going to be my go-to person. So do we give Megha an earphone where she can say, she's panicking, or whatever it is? We've got technology. We've got so many things that are there for us just to make sure these two people making a lifetime decision have the best day of their lives. So those are the things that I'd highlight at this point.
You are absolutely right, because there's a big difference between the crisis management that we can handle just to make an event go smooth, which
Yeah.
is something that has to be in our skills. And another part is the psychology and the empathy part.
Absolutely.
Because, many times we're not even aware of the dynamics in families. Or so dealing with the psychology, we're not psychologists ourselves, but we have to be a little bit
Absolutely.
in order to run the show. And I think that is absolutely the even the most difficult part, because at the end you can be a planner, you can be a friend, but you're not that close as anybody else could be in that situation. So
True.
I absolutely agree with you. And so Huita, you are in the entertainment industry, which is a little different from the planning, although you're like very close to it. So your crisis, what would be like that crisis that would really, be a little painful, we can say, in the entertainment business? Wait, you're muted. You're muted. You need to unmute yourself. Try to speak. Okay, maybe the no, we can't hear you.
Can't hear you.
Try again. Okay, let's pass on to Megha. Okay, Megha. So
Hi.
crisis management. Hi,
Yeah.
hello. How are you? You
Very
said
well.
so. The first thing that you've noticed, or the thing that you went and you came onto, is like sanification, and this part of the event has become for you like very very important. But how does that deal together with the crisis management, and how does the anything like last second versus to something you can plan make a really like game changer?
So, to be honest, as wedding planners, we're always prepared for things that may come up last minute, right? The whole essence and beauty of our profession, of our job, is that we're always planned and we're always prepared for things that may come up last minute, right? That's why we call ourselves planners. Um, we always try to make sure that things run hassle free, but there's so many things that come up. There's guests that may have dietary requirements that come up last minute while the dinner is being served. There's families that come to us and say, this so and so family member is allergic to XYZ, or this person has dietary requirements. There's, as you rightly said, there's weather conditions that come up out and about as well, especially in Dubai, where we don't expect rains, and then we plan everything outdoors. We've been planning for 6 months up to a year, and then suddenly a day before we realize, oh, okay, it's going to rain. So we always have to have a plan B. We always, as all of you rightly said, have to work as a team, not only within our team, but also ensure that all of our stakeholders are aligned with what needs to be done. For example, if someone has a dietary requirement, I need to be aligned with our stakeholders, with the hotel, to ensure that I'm keeping everyone minute by minute updated and informing them of the situation. Myself or my team members start working in isolation and we think we can run the show without all of our stakeholders, then a wedding is never going to be successful, right? It's all about working together. It's all about collectively being informed, informing our stakeholders. And we as wedding planners, we sit on the top of the pyramid. It's our job and duty to inform and pass down the information and ensure that everyone is aligned. If I look at Indian weddings, for example, there's delays. That's something that comes up unexpected all the time. That pushes my whole flow of events, that pushes my entertainment, that pushes when the first dance will happen, that pushes when the bride and groom can enter. So as long as we're keeping all of the stakeholders in loop and keeping them informed, we're ensuring that we're well in sync and um, well focused on what's going on, then I feel like we can always have a successful wedding celebration, even though these unexpected things come up, right? As you rightly said, Monica, there's no single event where things have not come up. We always have our ears open to see what's next, what's going to come up and about. So I feel like as long as we're all in sync and we have good relationships with all of our stakeholders, everything can run smoothly.
Exactly. The team is the team.
That is correct. That is
And it's
correct.
always a winner. So let's see if Jueta has her mic on. Let's see if we can hear you. Rita? No, we cannot hear you. Okay, while you try to solve this problem, let's go on. So tell me one thing. When we plan events, we try to think about all the different situation naturally. But there's always something that doesn't come to our mind. I'm sure. I mean, for me, it's this way. I try to think about them all, but for sure, I can't really think about them all. So do you do something in your planning? You say, I'll just put it here just because other I feel it's good to do it. Otherwise, even if I don't have it contracted, or some extras, some like crisis prevention, put it that way, that you just put on hold there and just take it out as your, like the white rabbit from the hat whenever is needed. What's your magic recipe? So let's go on to Gideon.
Hi. Yeah. So whenever, especially when I do destination weddings, I always bring extra flowers, even if it's not contracted, because sometimes, like weather in the Philippines, um, sometimes it can be super hot, and some flowers might wilt. So rather than having problems on that they will look for flower wilted, I'd rather have more than enough flowers uh for us to have a backup plan instead. So sometimes I give like extra flowers, so if ever that if ever that all the flowers are okay, I also bring my extra flowers. So sometimes the client will be surprised that there are more flowers instead. So uh we always sometimes we always need to be to be prepared with something. So it's like when you do weddings, like especially for wedding planners, they have this like emergency kit and all. Then anything might happen, they can just pull it off or something. So same with us as designers. Sometimes I even bring extra, how do you call it, extra backdrop in case we need something to cover, especially for ceremony. Sometimes, churches in the Philippines has, I mean, you will see like churches here with cars as your backdrop when the bride enters. So sometimes we bring extra backdrop or something. So sometimes even if it's not in the contract, it's nice to have something extra just to be sure, because um in case of these situations we are ready.
That's great. So you have your back covered if you need it, or otherwise the bride gets a beautiful gift. So anyhow, you fall on your feet, and that's really great.
Yes.
That's absolutely right. So let's look into, with flame, like crisis management and contracting. You cover your back, you do everything in contracting, but how do you handle things that cannot be contracted?
Oh man, listen, and and you know what, Monica, that's a great question, right? And so when you actually understand from the concept that there are going to be things that can't be contracted, that's not going to be in there, right? Is being able to pivot and redirect, right? Being able to put in your different twist to it, your different sound to it, and you got to also have an open mind, right? And I think that is some of the key elements, is that you're going to be able to have to understand that a lot of times that when you're doing these things, there's a part in this whole thing, right? And as you know, I deal with credit and I love it to death. But within credit, that system, there's one word that I want to introduce to the world today, the whole world, right? And that word is called trust, right? You're going to have to trust, right? And you're going to have to trust the people that you've actually hired. You're going to have to trust the people that you actually are getting ready to marry. You have to trust the people that are in your circle. You're going to have to trust the people that are actually coordinating, that's going to be around you, that they actually have your best interest in their heart. Now, for example, I understand that there may be things that you may want that may not be in the contract, but you got to also understand that when you start talking to people like Gideon, he was just talking about being able to say, hey, when I come to the event, right? Gideon's already, he put himself in a position to say, hey, I'm coming with more flowers. You didn't pay for these flowers. I made sure that I was prepared because I know that your trust is in me. Right. And so when we understand about those elements, about how you can actually implement the word trust, which can actually lower your tone, because that's a hectic day as a whole. Prior to the day of the wedding day, let's back up a minute. I like to back up. What about the days that are leading up to the event that could be as stressful as the wedding day or even more? Right? But you not even knowing that these things are not even inside of a binding agreement, right? These are things that a lawyer cannot touch. These are things that your family members can't touch. This is where you have to rely on, like what I call an energy level, where you have to understand that people have to use same things such as, excuse my language, it's called common sense. Right. And when people use these things, right, and they're using that common sense factor, right, because you trust it, because even though that you may have watched something on the places like of YouTube, or you may even went to places and seen it on TikTok, or even seen some of your friends or even other people that are around you, right, you got to understand that these people that you got around you, they're trusted. In fact, that they're going to get you to the best way possible, but they're going to get you there safely. They're going to get you there covertly, because they've been through it themselves. You're not the only one that's been through a crisis. You're not the only one that has actually been into a redesign. This, as you, I want people to understand this now. So let's get, I like energy levels. So watch this. That's your wedding day. It's yours. One day. Guess what happens? These other people that you got involved, they go to weddings every weekend. So they're doing weddings every single weekend. They're doing weddings on Saturdays, right? What if you can't get that day? What if you have to move it over to a Sunday, right? That thing is not even the contract, because guess what? On that Saturday, you wanted the whole place to yourself. But get on that Saturday, something happened. So now you got to move it to a Sunday where somebody else is in that venue with you, right? So you don't feel secluded. But now what happens is the people that you got around you are making it feel secluded in a place that there are other people at. So that's what I'm saying. That trust factor has got to be there, right? So it allows your mind to move freely and concentrate on your day at hand.
Absolutely. And in fact, if we think about it, when we get handpicked by our clients, it's not just for, what they see on TikTok on our Instagram, because if you think about it, I always think that a planner can be great, but what we show is the work of our florist or our production team, because I'm not doing flowers. I can't even do a bouquet. So that's not going to be my thing, but I've been good in picking the people. But other than the, building the trust, which is very important, if we think about it, it's not only what we show with our pictures, but how we handle situation is what gives us our reputation. Because one can be the most amazing producer, florist, or planner, but if the reputation isn't there, then there's something that's missing. So let's try to go back to Jueta and see if you have your mic on, because you are in the entertainment business, which is different, I believe, slightly from the planning side.
Well, first thing, I hope I'm heard.
Yes,
Yes.
yes.
Oh, finally. Oh, okay, all right.
Yes, finally.
Well done. Okay, so hello guys. I know I've been on mute all this while. To introduce a little bit about what YOLO does. We do entertainment, but we are very much planners as well. So we are a wedding planning company all across the globe as well. Yes, we do take care of the entertainment side as well in terms of and designing. We're in all turnkey solutions. We do provide 360-degree solutions to our brides and grooms. So yes, entertainment is what kind of bridal entries, etc. All of it that goes into it. So since all of you have addressed all that goes into the different kinds of crises, I won't repeat myself with those. Though yes, in this part of the world, or any of those crises that you all have named, or how important money is that Flame mentioned, and all of it that you all have touched upon. But one thing that came to my mind, the entertainment, which I'll also get into, is when the bride and groom break up on site, and we spent all night thinking, is this wedding even going to come back together? And then a question that's popped onto you, as you should have, and I'm like, a different kind of a crisis, but okay, put on the thinking cap and let's put the pros and cons and let's go ahead with it. And then yes, they did land up getting married, and they're happily married together today, right? Yeah. So this would have been a disaster, but yeah, with all teams put together, etc., sitting them down and talking to them, and then maybe talking to them all throughout, being very involved. Well, they're married and they're happily married. Apart from that, yes, when it comes to entertainment crisis in terms of an artist missing his flight, for instance, or during the pandemic, we have COVID, for example, and what does one do in situations like that? What are our backup plans? In terms of maybe bringing on local artists on board. We had a situation wherein we had contracted a huge artist, but he had a certain tech rider, and in the tech rider, and he was contracted just the night before, not during the pandemic, a little late before, due to some delays. And then he had a tech rider wherein he wanted to change in the design of the stage, and considering he wanted certain things in stock, and how we had to maneuver that, and then and obviously playing psychologists and playing everything and being the mediators between the family as well as the artist. So, well, yes, all of that goes into play in order to make that perfect, that obviously is put in front of everyone, and obviously to make that dream day come true and for it to work. So yes, these are part of the world. I think we all go through the same thing. It's all about the experience. It's all about our skills. It's all about the years of how we've probably tackled a certain situation, and how we adapt to our current crisis work. And no two situations, trust me, are ever the same. No two situations are ever the same. So it's always on the go. It keeps us on the toes, and I think that's the reason why we're all here. We love to live on the edge and walk on that. Walk on that path. It is, I guess, and we make those dreams come true. I actually call ourselves more of crisis managers than wedding managers and wedding planners, because
We
that
love to
reputation as to how we handled it on that is what makes it work, right?
we love danger.
Exactly. We love
Absolutely.
it. The adrenaline rush. We love it.
Okay, so let's do a little
Yes.
okay. What has been your toughest situation and how did you handle it? And I would like to know more than the actual, the actual practical part, which we know at the end, the bride knows and the family knows about the bigger picture, but usually the rest of the guests really don't. So from your perspective, your emotional part and your way, like your inner you solving it and what you learned from that. I think it's very important because once we always learn on our events, right? So we're better on the next. So let's go with start with Karabo.
Sure. I think the biggest learning is trusting your intuition. So, everybody is a professional. You've been doing what you've been doing for years, and sometimes there's things that just don't fit on the checklist, but they make the checklist at the end. And just trusting your intuition. When you are sitting with your bride and groom and you're listening and she's saying this and the mom-in-law is saying something else, or the sister-in-law. In the South African culture, as the sister of the groom, I can decide who can come to my brother's wedding. I have that power. But, as we become all more westernized, there's certain things that are taken away. But on the day of the wedding, culture just shows up. And so very important for us to trust our intuition and to sit and listen to the unsaid. As you are sitting there, you're like, okay, she's probably paying or her parents are paying. So I need to, even though the groom and the bride are my customers, this person here can make my life a misery, or the groom's life, or the bride's life a misery. So those are the kind of things that you bring in where you start listening to the unsaid or reading between the lines to say, oh, okay, especially when there's the groom or the bride was married before. Again, in our culture, you want a young girl who comes in, gets married, never had a baby, or there's also the bride price that we pay. The groom side pays. All of a sudden, you're coming in and there's already crisis that's got nothing to do with the wedding that happened before, but they get transferred into the wedding because at the cultural or traditional wedding that happens before the Western wedding, all these things happened. And so there's power struggles and there's things that you're like, okay, cool. What do I need to do? And the other thing is you as yourself, as a planner or the person running the show, how do you center yourself on the day? As you come in, you've got 20 other weddings coming, you've got 20 other crises that have got nothing to do with this one right now. How do you make sure? What are the tools? As I think Gideon also said it earlier, everybody's got their little magic box or toolbox. What is your personal toolbox as a person to keep you calm and centered? How do you keep your team calm and centered? Because I liked how you said it, Megha. You're right at the top of the food chain, right? At the pyramid. You have to make sure everything and everyone is aligned. And so you have to have that self-alignment with yourself. How do I make sure I zen myself in or out, whichever one works for you? and showing up as a whole person for these people that might not be so whole or sane sometimes. Um, and being the person that brings in the sanity and the alignment and the peace. And then you walk out again to go, whoo, drama, drama, drama. But you got to do what you got to do.
Absolutely. That's so right. You got to get the show on going on. So, Megha, so tell us about your way of approaching crisis and, how you learn from it and what you take home. What's your take home value from it and how you solve it really?
So, over time, when we face so many challenges, we face so many unexpected situations, the most important thing that I feel I personally have learned is how to stay calm, composed, and patient. Because among so much chaos that we as planners go through, there's so much, so much that goes on to align everyone. We're in stressful situations, rushing through things, looking at the minute details. It's very important that when an unexpected situation arises, we as planners are calm, composed, and patient, because that's what gives our client the comfort on not to panic and not to stress out. If there's a situation such as a fire hazard or a safety hazard that comes up, and we as planners are panicking, looking around, and calling the hotel staff, calling the stakeholders, and looking around and trying to figure out solutions, then the guests are panicking, your clients panicking, and it becomes chaotic for everyone. So over time I've learned that it's very important that the first step that we as planners need to do is ensure that we calm down, have some patience, go to our client, tell them, don't worry, there's nothing to worry about. We have our team, we have professionals on board who are looking into the situation, and them and them their guests to calm down, right? Once you give your client that comfort, because that's why we're here, we as planners are here for our client, to ensure that we take care of things and to ensure that our client and our bride and groom, our couple, has a stress-free day, right? So once we've established that, once we've calmed our clients down, that's when it's important for us to address the situation and actually get professionals on site and ensure that we solve the problems, solve the stress situation that arise. So overall, what I've learned over time is that amongst so much chaos, it's important to calm down, take a deep breath, and then address situations and ensure that you as planners at least look calm and composed when an uncertain situation comes up.
You're so right. You got to put your I'm super professional and calm and ready
100%.
to every disaster. So storm, come and get me. We'll deal with it.
100%. 100%. You have to put your superhero cape on and be all composed, right?
Totally agree. So we were saying, about we saw this tradition issues, crisis, family crisis, things that have to do with our culture at the end. But let's see another aspect, which I'm very curious about with you, Gideon. You travel the world for real. I mean, I see you hopping in and out of every country and east, west, to south, north, wherever it goes. And you're not just doing simple productions, you are actually doing quite important productions. So even getting the planning part before the execution, there can be crisis management. For example, sometimes I had it when we had issues of clearing up a container, for example, or when we start shipping things around the world. So it's not only that we deal with crisis management during an event with actually our clients, but our crisis management has to deal also, I believe, with what comes before. What do you think?
Yes, I actually agree on that, Monica, because we've been doing international events and every country has a different challenges and crises, you know what I mean? As simple as, for example, a language barrier can be a big challenge for us sometimes, even around Asian countries. So, uh, sometimes it's hard to communicate if you are not on the same page, or sometimes if you don't speak the same language, or if they don't even understand the basic language, which is English, for example. So for example, we had this wedding in China a few years ago, and the suppliers and even the client doesn't speak English. They don't even understand English. So sometimes uh, um, we cannot communicate faster with them because we need someone to translate everything. So, it's like we're speaking twice. I have to speak to the translator, and the translator has to speak with the supplier and the client. So no, it's sometimes it's hard, and um, we see that as a crisis or as a problem during because we have a timeline um to 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 follow. So as a dream maker, of course, you really need to plan ahead. What are you going to do that to solve that problem during the wedding day, because you only have allotted time. Another thing is that, of course, sometimes the way we do things in the Philippines is, different whenever we do these things abroad. So the cultures, the way we work is different. So you really need to adapt on um, you really need to know how to adapt on how they do things in their country, because sometimes it's different from like what we usually do in my country. So things like that, it really involves a lot of patience and proper planning.
Absolutely. I mean, proper planning and patience are two skills that I find amazing that you can learn, but it's not easy
Mhm.
to learn.
It's not easier, definitely. But these learnings you can, these learnings you can, apply on your next event again. So to make
Yes.
it more perfect, right? Yeah.
So we are getting to the end of our session. So I would do a round saying, what is your, you know, piece of experience or suggestion for any crisis management, which can happen during a wedding, during an event, doing anything you're actually putting all your soul and heart and efforts in so that you really care for. So let's start with Flame.
Man, listen, man, first off, man, for the mods that's up here, man, they did a splendid job. So I always like to make sure I give them two claps across that, man, because they showed out. They went above and beyond. But I also want to let you guys know that this is I'm giving a little word kind of to more of the event planners that are out there, right? There's one thing that I do know across is that you have some of these great teams that win championships, right? And one thing that I do know that there's a series, and that goes from the owner to the general manager to actually the coach and then to the player and that sort of thing, right? But when it comes to it, sometimes you can have disagreements from the people that may be the GM or the coach, right? But if the whole aspect is being able to win the game, and you got to understand that the person that is paying the GM or the coach happens to be the owner. And so for you guys that are in wedding planning, sometimes the person is playing the person that is paying you, you may actually have to go against their grain about what they want, because they hired you guys to be in full control of the situation. And so when they put you in that full control, right? The ultimate goal of this whole ordeal is to bring home the championship. And that championship is for everyone that is actually at that event to actually have to feel a certain type of way, right? And when they leave from it, they got to know that this is the best event that they've ever attended. Not best wedding, I said best event that they've ever attended. And so while you're doing this, just know that your confidence, as she was saying earlier, that you got to be calm, you got to be patient, right? And you got to make sure that you keep your composure under anything and never let anyone come within your circle to take you off of your graph. And as long as you're staying in that arena, right, that's going to push everyone forward. And for the people that are actually getting married and that you're thinking about sharing your love with the person of your life, which we all call our best friend, when you get into that magnifold, You got to understand that when you blockage this stuff out, that you allowed everything that's in you for the people that are around you that you've actually put in position, whether it was the DJ, whether it was the actual wedding planner, or whether it was an actual cook or anybody that provided. You want to make sure that you give them full leeway to making sure that this is the best event possible. And for you, if you don't understand this, this is one thing that people hate. That's called being micromanaged, right? No one likes to be micromanaged. So I think at that time, this is a time where you got to understand that this is your life, but you got to be excited about it and you got to want more from it, because what does that do? That provides energy to the people around you and they can't help but want to be a part of it themselves. So listen, I don't know about you guys right now. I'm ready to keep listening to them because I'm excited. Hey, I might mess around right now and go do something crazy in the morning because y'all got me excited all about these weddings right now.
Oh my God, Flame, you are such a, I don't know, motivational speaker coaching. I'm going to call you before every event from now on. Okay. You're going to have a direct line with me, I tell you. So we got the last 30 seconds each. Okay. Before we run out for the session. Let's go with Megha. So your secret recipe.
So my one piece of advice that I would give to anyone who's an event planner, who's an event professional, is to always be prepared ahead of time, is to always be planned. Because the reason we call ourselves planners is because we are well planned, right? If we fail to plan, then our event's gonna fail and that's it. That's game over for us, right? So yeah, always have enough time to keep yourself planned, always be prepared for any situation.
You're absolutely right. Absolutely right. So, Jueta. Let's see. Jueta, can you hear me?
Yes, I can. Yes.
Okay. So, your recipe.
Sorry, I couldn't hear that as part of it. Can you please repeat?
So tell us your 30-second secret recipe to crisis management for yourself.
Well, shall I think it would just be remain calm, composed, well planned, with plan ABC. And I guess that should do the trick. And if we ideas, I don't think there's anything that can, deter us from the path that we've chosen. So yeah, we just need to have that conviction in our own plan and go ahead with it. So yes, and have faith.
Absolutely, always. So Karabo.
So for the wedding planners specifically, every wedding and every bride and groom are the same. Are different. So yes, you've planned 2 million weddings, but take the time to know them. Ask as many relevant questions as possible. Like I said earlier, who's paying for the wedding? Will they expect to be consulting? Any illnesses? Over 100 people or 500 people? Make sure there's a first aider or someone like that. And to ask both the groom and the bride, who knows you best? Who's going to be in a wedding party, so I can go to them and not to bother you on the day. I want you to look fabulous and feel fabulous. And then the last one is have backup for everything.
Absolutely. Gideon, your secret recipe.
Well, okay, for all the wedding professionals out there, we need to bear in mind that there are crises that are beyond our control. So we have to be very rational and very realistic. Especially, being realistic is really important. We need to prepare for plan A, B, or even plan C. And of course, safety of the majority is really our major priority. So, yeah.
That's so true. Well, thank you, everybody. I'll just give my 2 cents as well. And being able to be with you on this panel is a blessing, actually. And, one of the things I love best is networking. And who knows me knows that very well. Why? Not only because you meet amazing people and you have loads of fun, and I'm a party animal, But the thing is, you learn so much having people like you that are just a WhatsApp away when you have an issue. Maybe you're on site, or maybe because you need somebody. You know, the network we can create is amazing. And Espousal today gave everybody a huge, ready to know, motivating, putting us together, different countries, different mindsets, different cultures, but at the end we're all doing the same job. So that means we can share, and and we can understand each other, which is the most important thing, to be able to get advice. So I'm sorry that Shivanshi couldn't make it because he was having some technical problems. So I would think that Ananya, if you want to drop in, but it's been a real pleasure being with you on this panel. Thank you. It's been a great super session, and enjoy your day.